My name's Elliot Russo. I'm one of the tutors at RADA Business. For those of you who don't know, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art is a drama school, about 10 minutes walk down that way. And what RADA does, it trains young actors at the start of their career. It's a 3-year course and it trains them to be brilliant communicators. It sharpens their communication skill for a career in stage, TV, radio, what have you. Of course, the world of drama is full of failure. If you look at the unemployment rate for actors, it's somewhere around 90% most of the time. We've already heard the word resilience being mentioned this morning. Resilience is something that actors have to factor into, or at least work on, in their professional lives. But there are a few things that actors do, and there are a few things that are specific to drama, which really helps the saccharine yet dismal world in which we choose to operate. And the first one of those is the idea of feedback. What actors do in a rehearsal, I want to talk about rehearsal culture for a second. When actors rehearse a play, whether it be at drama school or in their professional lives, the rehearsal culture is one of granular feedback. If you're rehearsing a play and the director or the movement director or the voice coach doesn't give you any feedback, an actor will go, what did I do wrong? Was I unnoticeable? Did you not see what I did? How can I improve? So we have embedded within an actor's mentality is the acceptance that we always need to improve. What we've done is probably okay, but we can get better. This kind of runs counter to many people in organisations who feel, if I don't get any feedback, I've got away with it, I've slipped under the radar, I can just continue and coast until, well, retirement, I guess, in many cases. So there's something quite particular about the acting environment which mitigates against a sense of failure, which is around this need for improvement, this need for reflection and feedback. At RADA Business, and there's a small section of RADA where we work, RADA Business, we transport some of these ideas and methodologies from drama training into a corporate or organisational setting. Some of the things that we use have been tried and tested techniques which are around looking at failure. Drama, the dramatic form, is full of failure. It's full of challenge. It's full of disappointment. If it wasn't, then The Lord of the Rings would be a one-page travelogue. Frodo's got a ring. He's got to take it to Mordor. It was quite difficult, but he got there in the end. If we skip over the tough bits in drama, then we lose the meat of the dramatic. So we spend a lot of our time dealing with conflict, dealing with what it's like to get over conflict. Augusto Boal, who was a Brazilian dramatist and playwright and activist, used theatre in a very particular political way. And a lot of companies that use drama in their training use forum theatre, which is based on Boal's ideas. And what Augusto Boal would do is he'd present a political situation that was inherently flawed. And he'd invite the audience to go, what do you think? How could X person do things better? How could this situation be improved? Out of this scene of failure that we've showed you, how would you make it better? And one of the core things that we do at RADA Business for our clients, we write scenes that show a failing and we invite dialogue. One of the things that's really struck me this morning listening to the speakers is the idea of isolation through failure. What happens when we don't admit to ourselves things are going wrong? Theatre is inherently social. Forum theatre even more so, and I'm going to put you in that social interactive mode in a minute. Because what we do with forum theatre is we say, all of you have probably got an opinion on what might make this better. Let's find out what that opinion is, and through dialogue, through a clash of ideas or a sharing or a synthesis of ideas, let's make the situation here a lot better. So specifically, we were asked by UCL 2 years ago to look at the relationship in particular between doctoral students and supervisors, and to look at some of the situations there that weren't working particularly well. Interestingly enough, we were asked to write a scene showing how it worked brilliantly. And as a playwright, it's the worst thing to be asked. Can you please write a great scene about how this situation works? We came up with 7 or 8 drafts, and they were all cheesy and embarrassing and awful, because our view, or one person's view, what great looks like, is just cringeworthy to someone else. It's really easy to write a situation where things aren't working. So we interviewed supervisors, we interviewed researchers, doctoral students, to uncover some of the dynamics of this relationship. We anonymised the research and then we put them into theatre. So we wrote 3 short vignettes. The course that we run is for maybe 25, 30 people, and we invite people to look at the scenes, and then we invite them to comment. What's going wrong? What can the doctoral researcher do? What's their responsibility in making this relationship work? We're going to get used to exactly the same thing now. Out of the 3 scenes that we've written, we're going to show you them out of order. We might not get through all 3, but we'll definitely show you a couple. The first scene we're going to show you, I'd like to introduce Michelle and Conrad, who are going to be our actors and co-facilitators for this session. We're going to show you a scene that highlights a conversation between a researcher and their supervisor. A lot of the work that we do is around what we call ABC, attitudes, behaviours and communication. It might be around looking at ABC that gives you the chance to reframe a failure into an opportunity. So we look at relationship. So what we're going to do, we're going to show you the scene, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions after that, and we're going to treat you for the next 30, 40 minutes as if you were on one of our courses looking at this relationship. So if I can ask Michelle and Conrad to come up to the stage. In this scene, Conrad is playing the doctoral student. Michelle is playing his supervisor. Don't worry too much about the content of the scene. We'd like you to focus on the relationship and also the attitude to success or failure that's present in the scene. Anyone studying architecture here? Oh, good.
It's Ben. Sorry, Clarice. I'm a bit late, sorry.
Well, timekeeping is the least of your worries. What in the name of all things holy and unholy is this?
You didn't like it then?
Would be an understatement.
Well, I tried to include all the suggested rewrites that we talked about.
You didn't try very hard, did you? Clearly your autocorrect was in cahoots with your stubborn insistence that contemporary modernist architecture should focus on post-Le Corbusier European civic design without reference to American modernism.
Well, that isn't exactly what I meant.
Well, that's exactly what came across. So, the question is, do you want your bollocking in the hall, or would you rather a bollocking sitting next to the fire?
Was a bollocking compulsory?
It's 6 months to your viva. Come on. I'm looking to put a rocket under most of my PhD students, so don't take it personally. And yes, it most definitely is compulsory.
Okay, well, what was it you didn't like?
Well, okay, so, Frey, Neutscher, Lloyd Wright, yes. All were influenced by Le Corbusier. So yes, the flow of creative waves were very much extending from Europe from the 1920s onwards.
But I referenced that point.
Yes, but you don't spend any time discussing the return flow of ideas.
Well, I spent a little time
Not enough. You need to make a case either way.
But I'm just not really convinced that there's a...
Whatever you are or aren't, you need to make a case either way.
Yes. Oh, if you say so.
Oh, come on, Ben, get off the fence. Come on. Were the return flows of ideas back across the Atlantic noteworthy or not?
But it's not exactly a
Oh,
black
come
and
on.
white issue.
What if carving out a new perspective depended on you saying it was black and white? What then? What would you say? Black or white? Yes or no?
Well, yeah, as I said, it's
come
not
on,
really...
Ben, get off the fence. Come on.
Well, right, okay, I will. Bloody hell, I don't see why I've got to put my master the colour right now.
Well, it's what a PhD's all about.
Yes, but look, I've worked very, very hard to get this far, and I've written a well-developed, well-measured, and a well-documented position of amongst those mid-century modern architecture historians. You know, it's a good piece of work, and up to now, you've been really happy with what I've done.
Yes, well, at least you've admitted it.
What?
That you're already documenting what is already well documented.
No, that's not exactly what I...
Come on, Ben. Gotcha. Go on. Say it.
Right then. So what if there was a design and build flow from Palm Springs to Europe, and because of environmental issues that made PS so unique? I would also go so far as to say that the raw materials that were so abundant in California in the 1930s were so prohibitively expensive in mainland Europe that it was just impossible. That in condition with the weather conditions that would make something like the Chrysler track buildings impossible to build in mainland Europe. So that's why I don't reference American modernism.
So, can you prove it?
Probably.
Well, then, I suggest you do. Because, well, nothing else in your thesis is either remarkable or unique.
Okay. But do you really have to...
Do I really have to what?
Nothing. Nothing, it's
Listen, it is good to have a bit of pushback. This is your dissertation, not mine.
Could have fooled me.
Oh, anyway, I nearly forgot. Here's something to wet your whistle in between rewriting your theses. The Norman Foster Foundation are launching a series of Thought Architect Leadership events, and we've been asked to organise it, contribute and organise it, and I have put your hat in the ring.
What?
Yes. Good to raise your profile.
But I couldn't possibly...
Oh, come on, I think you can. Besides, someone from the department has to do it, and you're the only one whose field of expertise fits the conference agenda. You get to speak, yes. Put some of those ideas to the test. Good for you, good for all of us.
But I don't really think that
come
I
on,
can...
That's great. I'll tell them to expect a call from you. Now, that wasn't so bad, was it?
So lots to digest. Could you turn to the person next to you? I'd like you to answer a couple of questions. What was going well in that conversation? And then 10 seconds after that, nothing, thank you very much. The panto season started early. Yes, so not much. But I'd like you to have a conversation about responsibility. In terms of Ben, Conrad's character Ben, what could he have done to improve that situation? And generally, what was going wrong? What's your opinion? I'll leave you a couple of minutes with the person next to you, and then we're going to do a debrief. Off you go. Okay, so let's get your thoughts on what was working well. Anyone like to offer anything that you saw that was working well? That's a groan of, if I can be bothered. Is there anything? Yes. Right, okay. Yeah, so maybe the sort of the alchemy of this conversation, the fact that she was pushing him, perhaps made him feel uncomfortable, but actually as a result of that discomfort, he found himself going, yes, okay, there is something here that I can work, there's something new I can work with. So actually, yeah, maybe that provocation, that spark of provocation gave him something to work with. Yes.
It's kind of in a similar vein that the supervisor was trying to push him out
So maybe in terms of her intention was good. I'm gonna really push my student, but maybe the way she did it might have been a bit overwhelming for him in this particular. Two very good things that went well. A third thing that went well. Oh no, okay, no, yeah. You want to get the knives out? Okay, right. Let's get that. So what was going badly then?
Well, I think, yeah, the supervisor, if you're trying to encourage a student, keeping them down at the beginning is probably not the best way to do that.
Yes.
At the beginning and kind of putting them in their place. Well, in their place.
It's interesting, isn't it? The idea of the language used. You know, would you like your bollocking by the fire, or so something? It's something you're going to have to go through. That there's a gauntlet to be run in this conversation. So that frames up the conversation, or frames up the work in quite a negative way. So looking at the idea of failure, how much is that going to have a knock-on effect on his framing of his own work? Yes.
I also think the fact that he arrived late, it's not taken very seriously her time, and the fact that he also was a bit reluctant into taking any suggestions. Albeit her delivery was maybe not the most warming, let's put it this way. He was very, very reluctant in taking any suggestions. He would always make up excuses why certain things hadn't been done.
Okay, so maybe the lateness. I mean, he did apologise, but I take your point. It's perhaps disrespecting her time to turn up a few minutes late. Being resistant to change. I think this is a big topic that we work on in the sessions. The overall theme of our sessions, when we run it for real, is around being assertive. And I think there's something around being assertive, which is accepting things that you maybe should have done differently, but also fighting for the things that you feel you have done well. So it's around a kind of collaborative, assertive conversation. Yeah.
I think going back to what you were saying about attitudes and behaviors, the dismissive tone of the meeting was very, very discouraging. And stopping your student even before they have finished their sentences, I think it's just like a no-brainer.
Right, okay, so actually not letting him finish. So there's something here around pace of communication. We do a lot of work around different communication styles and preferences on the courses that we run. It might be that Michelle's motor runs a lot quicker than Conrad's character. And what does that mean? Who has the responsibility of recalibrating that? Wow, yes, go on.
I think to some extent Michelle does. She needs to check
Okay.
that what she is saying is being understood by Ben.
Okay.
And also I think Ben has some degree of responsibility to maybe perhaps take notes. He wasn't taking notes, I noticed.
So there is something, and this is a really hands up if you think it's Conrad's responsibility to recalibrate the tone of the conversation. It's a quick straw poll. Hands up, not one of you. One person who thinks it's Conrad's responsibility. Two, both. Okay, both. Okay. Hands up who thinks it's purely Michelle's responsibility. Ooh, interesting. Yes. Mostly, okay.
She's the most experienced and the one with the most power in the situation.
Right, okay. So there should be a degree of role modelling going on here. Who thinks it's a co-created responsibility? The majority of the room. Okay, so there's something around how do we provide someone, in this case Conrad's character, who seems to be quite shy, who seems to be quite slow to come to an opinion. How do we give him the tools to be able to be assertive in this relationship? There you go, that wasn't a rhetorical question. What do we do? Yes.
I think there was not a structure in that meeting.
Okay.
So an agenda or some key questions or items to be discussed, but the text was not.
And it might be that having an agenda would work for the type of communication that Conrad's character prefers. That would give him a degree of comfort to know that he's going to walk into his supervisor's office and go, I know that we're going to cover chapters 4, 5 and 6 and my conclusion. As it stands, he's walking into the unknown, which for his particular communication style might put him into a high degree of discomfort and potential anxiety. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I can't prepare for it. Suddenly the defences go up. Maybe that's why he gets quite reactive and quite defensive, because he doesn't know what's coming down the line. So yeah, maybe an agenda would help. What else? Yes. I love that. It's quite down, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely, and as we've just discovered from our last session, that there's a physical and intellectual and emotional feedback loop. If you spend your days walking around like this, as Conrad's character does, even holding himself self-soothing in the corner here, even this gives itself, it lends itself to a kind of dictionary and a mindset. You say fake it. A lot of the time, a lot of the work that we do at RADA is around body, breath, voice. So the connection with the floor, an elongated spine, allowing the breath to drop down before you commit to a thought. So actually, when you do speak, it has heart behind it and intellectual rigor. So yes, there's something about body language we'll focus on. What else?
Not to say that both people...
Yes.
Not to say that both people don't have responsibility, because they do, but I want to stress again the imbalance of power, especially when we are now in a culture that is talking more about harassment. You know, like she is the far more experienced person that should have had training into, you know, dealing with different sorts of students, and she should be the one guiding him into this new world, right? Supposedly, he's just a student out of college. So, yes, both people have responsibility ultimately, but I still think the supervisor is the one with far more responsibility to guide the discussion in a productive way.
And I think these are exactly the type of conversations that we really cherish in the rooms, because actually, I think you're absolutely right. Structurally, architecturally, in terms of the infrastructure of this conversation, you're absolutely right. However, does that knowledge help the conversation? How much does that knowledge help Conrad's character to get the best out of this relationship? Well, yes, you could get down the formal route of complaint, and that often happens, or does sometimes happen. But what we're trying to do with the courses that we run, in particular this one, is actually try and upskill Conrad's character, and hopefully by extension the people who are watching, to be able to have a more assertive relationship in that. Not to deny what you say, I think the two go hand in hand. You need to be aware of the power structures, but also there's, from Conrad's perspective, what can I do to make this work?
But the only problem is that you put the onus of responsibility on the person that is the weakest. So at least for Conrad, if he knows that, I don't know, I don't think this was necessarily abusive, but if he knows that interactions between supervisors and mentees are supposed to be slightly more constructive, then he can also seek help or advice elsewhere.
Yes, yeah. No, I don't disagree with you at all, and we have a comment over here which might add to this.
So it is important for us, and we should let supervisors know what we need from them as well. They should also ask, so it is a balanced act, but also I think at some stage, maybe the stage Ben is in, Ben was the name of the character? Yeah. Maybe he's still a bit inexperienced as to what he can do and what he should do. He might be afraid to ask for help or say that he needs help. He might regard supervisors like, the goddess of like that field, and, anything she says he should take on board, even if he disagrees sometime. So I think students need to be know that they should do that and they can do that and have the power to do that.
I think intellectually, I completely agree with everything you both say. I think in the heat of the moment, and that's kind of what we're looking at here, in the conversational heat of the moment, how can I be more assertive to get the best out of this conversation without overextending myself, without appearing to be myself a bully or someone who's being dictatorial. So what we do, and we're going to move on to our next exercise, we slow down the drama. We never get a chance to slow down real life. You never get a chance to go, I'm going to try that again, sorry. Good morning. That never happens. In forum theatre, it happens whenever we like. So we're going to replay that scene now, and we're going to ask you to direct it, or redirect it. Whenever you see something that you think ought to change or could change for the better to help Conrad's character and to help them both get the best out of this relationship, I want you to say stop. If you feel theatrical, you can say cut. We don't mind. That also works for us as well. Conrad and Michelle actually respond quite well to cut, don't you? So,
You're not going to do it like that.
so we're going to go back to the start of the scene. Whenever you see something you'd like to tweak, change or alter, then stop or cut. Let's see how it goes.
Hi, it's Ben.
Oh, okay, that's brilliant. That was like a nanosecond. Fantastic. So what would you like to cut or change?
So is it Conrad or is it Ben?
Let's say
Ben.
Thank you.
Call me Ben.
He used to stop outside the room for a second, catch his breath, maintain composure, and then make a motion.
Great piece of advice. Let's try that.
Okay.
Let's imagine, through the magic of theatre, that the door's sort of here, so Ben can stand here and compose himself. Okay.
Okay.
And stop. I'm going to stop. Are you happy with this level of self-composure? Body language? No, you talk about body language. What would you like for body language? Okay, straighten up a little bit. So, if we could elongate that spine. Okay, right. So we're getting into great Amy Cuddy territory here. I mean, powerful pose. Powerful. Lovely.
It's a wide door, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have an elongated spine. Relationship with the floor. One of the things that we talk a lot about in our courses is our relationship to the floor. We run negotiation skills courses and influencing skills courses, and often we will see people trying to be influential with their feet wrapped around the legs of the chair. It's really hard to stand your ground when you have no ground. So actually being able to be connected to the floor is really important, and still have an energized spine. What we saw before with Conrad is this. What other effect is this going to have? You can't breathe. And if you can't breathe, you can't speak. And actually, if you listen to the quality of my voice, the more I crunch over, the reedier and thinner and less assertive the voice becomes. As soon as you have an elongated spine, when the voice drops, then your voice has authority. And we talk about voice of authority being in the chest, so activating chest resonance. I have a microphone, that helps as well. Was that you? Was it? Thanks. So again, an elongated spine, feet on the floor. Let's take it from there. So imagine that you've just entered the room, Conrad. You've taken the advice, elongated spine, feet on the floor, and let's start the scene from there.
It's Ben. Hi, Clarice. Sorry I'm late.
Timekeeping is the least of your worries. What in the name of all things holy and unholy is this?
So, you didn't like it then?
Would be an understatement.
And I'm going to stop.
Please.
That was, we've kind of gone over, yeah, I say. So maybe rein it back by about 20%.
Okay. It's Ben. Hi, Clarice. Sorry I'm late.
Timekeeping is the least of your worries. What in the name of all things holy and unholy is this?
So you didn't like it then?
That would be an understatement.
Stop, the cuts! Okay.
I was crushed.
So, advice?
Body language again.
Okay, so let's see if we can maintain that as we go into the seat.
Okay. So, you didn't like it then?
It would be an understatement.
So I tried to include all your suggested rewrites that we talked
Well,
about
you
in the
didn't
last
try
meeting.
very hard, did you? Clearly your autocorrect was in cahoots with your stubborn insistence that
Oh, stop. Okay, great. It's brilliant watching your faces in the room. It's like, oh, I'd like to say stop, but I don't dare. I hope someone else does. Some of you mentioned before this interrupting thing. Is that where you wanted to stop, or the reason why you wanted to stop?
No, it's about the supervisor greeting them and then perhaps inviting him to sit down and setting the agenda for the meeting.
Okay.
This is what we're going to cover, and then probably agreeing on the outcomes, what they're going to take away from this 1 hour or so.
If we were running a course for supervisors called How to Get the Best Out of Your Relationship with Your Students, we could really focus on Michelle. The course that we run is around the students. So I love the idea, absolutely right. However, we're going to leave Michelle as she is. However, what we do here should affect Michelle. And I don't know if you noticed already, this conversation, she's a little bit more respectful, maybe a little bit more cautious of opening the barn doors, having that conversation.
He can suggest an agenda.
Yeah, he can suggest an agenda.
Okay, so it's an agenda.
Also, say if you don't like it, then that's like, go on.
Okay. So there's something quite sort of self-harming about say you don't like it then. Okay. As a suggestion here.
It's probably been arranged by email. Let's go and talk about feedback for your dissertation. So that doesn't need to be a further agenda, maybe. And they just met to talk for 15 minutes or whatever about his dissertation.
So what's great about this is that we are now getting into the real detail of what's going to work for Ben. We're going to skip forward to the end of the scene now. We want to give you an idea of how we work in our courses. But there's one particular moment that I want us to focus on, which is around when she has said that she's going to put his name forward for the Norman Foster Foundation Thought Leadership Programmes. And she's just done it. It's a fait accompli. He's organising it. Let's have a look at that part again, and please feel free to stop it or say cut, in order specifically to create some space for Ben to be more assertive. So let's cut to that section.
Ooh, I nearly forgot. Here's something to wet your whistle in between rewriting your thesis.
Sounds
The
exciting.
Norman Foster Foundation is launching a series of thought leadership events, and we've been asked to contribute, well, organise really, and I've put your hat in the ring.
What?
Yes, good to raise your profile.
But I can't do that.
Well, I think you can.
No,
Besides someone from...
Oh, good, yes, that's a good cut there. So that's the point. What can we offer?
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but there needs to be sort of an examining of why she put him forward. Maybe he could ask, how is this going to help me? Is there any way I could do a smaller role? Maybe he does like the idea, but, what's the commitment that's required from me and things like that.
Okay.
So maybe keep it open, don't accept yet, but,
Don't accept yet, but be open.
just test the waters.
Okay. That's one suggestion. And a suggestion at the back. Before you speak, can we wait till the microphone gets to you? I'm so sorry, I've been far too eager in wanting to hear what people say. Thank you very much.
I think if someone has said that they've nominated you for something or they're presenting something as an opportunity, it's kind of good to first say, like, wow, thank you. Thank you for believing that I can do this or whatever. And then if you have any concerns about it, I think it's better to phrase it as sort of, I'm worried about juggling this with my workload at the moment, or do you think I'm qualified to do this, or what help is available for me in order to sort of tackle this next task.
Okay, so there might be something which is around appreciation of the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Sharing the... we will hear from you in a second,
I'm
Michelle.
just saying.
So, yeah, appreciation. Also raising concerns around how that's going to work in terms of juggling the work. Being open, asking questions. How long is it going to take? What's the commitment? Any other things that you might want to throw into the mix? Yes. Or before you get there, sorry. Momentary pause. Thank you.
Maybe it might have been good for Ben to kind of let her finish, because we talked about interrupting. He kind of went straight in to say, oh, no, I couldn't, So maybe let her finish what she's got to say first, to hear what she thinks, and then put his side across.
Okay. So rather than having the knee-jerk reaction of, well, it's not for me, that's far too exposing or being in the spotlight? Yes, maybe let her finish? Yeah. Anything else that you might want to consider? Okay, so, Conrad, you have a number of options. Ben.
Sorry.
A number of options. Stay curious, be appreciative, maybe listen to the whole event first. An option here? Yes.
Which is that quite often in this situation, it's easy now because we're thinking about it, but often when a supervisor puts something like that to you and you're not expecting it, you can, of course, feel very overwhelmed, and there's no time to think about it. And quite a useful strategy in that situation is to actually buy some time, and and to make some comment like, well, that's, I'm quite, I'm really honoured that you would think about me for that. But I think I just need to give that some thought. Can we come back to that? Because then once you're able to think about it a bit, you can then come up with all the kind of, well, who's going to help with it? What about this? What about that? What support am I going to have? So it's a sort of intermediate position between either getting very panicky and reacting, like he did initially, or actually, if you are able to get into that mindset where you can do this, well, what about this, what about that? But often in that situation, you can't, not immediately.
So I think there's a couple of things in there. Giving yourself a moment to consider it. On a sort of granular, tiny, micro-behaviioral level, taking a breath in even before you respond. What we saw here was, I couldn't possibly. It doesn't take any effort at all, and certainly isn't going to impact on the relationship if when an offer's put on the table for you to go, I'm not sure what I think about this. My first reaction is I'm excited, and thank you ever so much. I need to go and do some thinking about this. That's an absolutely legitimate holding position. If on a gut level you think I'd like to do it, you still don't have to commit. You can still stay in that curious space of going, what exactly does it entail? Can we speak about this later on? I'm really interested, but first of all I need to. So giving yourself a bit of space. There's a phrase that we use in RADA Business, which is in a way sort of, it marbles through all of our courses, which is think, breathe, speak. And it seems really simple, but often we find ourselves speaking and then backtracking on the other two. And we commit to stuff even before we've worked out our own opinion on it. So regardless of what is put in front of you, the ability to go, what's my response? Energize the system, share the thought. Think, breathe, speak. So you've had a number of suggestions. Let's drop back into the scene and let's see how this goes based on any one or a combination of the suggestions that you've received.
Oh, I nearly forgot. Here's something to wet your whistle in between rewriting your theses. The Norman Foster Foundation is launching a series of architect thought leadership events, and I've put your hat in the ring. Good to raise your profile.
Well, I don't know what to say, Clarice. That's I'm flattered that you've thought of me to lead on that.
That's good. Well, someone from the department has to do it, and your field of expertise fits the conference agenda.
Absolutely.
See, you can put all those ideas to the test because you get a speaking spot. Good for you, good for all of us.
You put it so eloquently, Clarice. I don't know what I'm thinking right now. I have mixed thoughts. So
Right.
I would like to go away and give you my decision. However, in order to help me make that decision, what would it entail? Because I know I've got a lot of work with my thesis going on, and I'm just worried that will I have support? How many hours am I going to need in order to organise and speak?
But this is your specialised area, Ben.
So how did that sound and feel as a conversation? A lot better, a lot more assertive. In the course that we run, we look at quite a simple framework, which is concern for relationship versus concern for outcome. We often think about this relationship, sometimes concern for relationship gets in the way of concern for outcome. I don't want to upset my supervisor. I don't feel assertive enough to be able to have a conversation with my supervisor because they want to do this and I feel it should be this, but I don't know if I've got the right or the power or the authority or the mandate to say what I want to say. So often, concern for relationship wins out and we become quite passive. If our main concern is concern for outcome, with no concern for relationship, then we can become quite dictatorial. My way or the highway. I don't care what you think or feel, this is my opinion, I'm going to stick to it. Suddenly the relationship deteriorates. You might get what you want, but the relationship deteriorates. Ideally, you want an equal concern for relationship and an equal concern for outcome. That way you get into a very collaborative space.